Hello and welcome to News Central Now. I'm Darshan Usman. The top stories at this hour. Organized labor says an agreement must be reached before President Tinubu transmits minimum wage bill to the legislature. 50 members of Nigeria's House of Representatives call for the release of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. One person killed and dozens injured in a stampede during President Kagame's campaign rally. Details of these stories and more in a moment. News now begins in the west of the continent, where Nigeria's organized labor has called on President Bola Tinubu to engage in consultations and reach an agreement with its leadership before submitting the proposed minimum wage bill to the National Assembly. The union highlighted that the delay in forwarding the bill has stalled the anticipated National Executive Committee meeting, which is expected to include about 300 labor leaders. In his Democracy Day address on Wednesday, President Tinubu announced that a consensus had been reached with labor on the new minimum wage. However, both the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress refuted this claim. President Tinubu also assured that an executive bill would soon be sent to the National Assembly to formalize the agreement, emphasizing his administration's commitment to the democratic approach rather than a dictatorial one in dealing with labor issues. In the meantime, 50 members of the House of Representatives, representing all 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria, have appealed to President Bola Tinubu for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. In a letter dated June 19, 2024, the lawmakers, who are from various political parties, urged President Tinubu to initiate a peace process to address the security challenges in the southeast. Operating under the banner of the Concerned Federal Lawmakers for Peace and Security in the Southeast, the lawmakers requested the President to instruct the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, to use his nolle prosequi powers under Section 174, subsection 1 of the Constitution and Section 107, subsection 1 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015 to discontinue Kanu's trial and secure his release. This appeal follows Nnamdi Kanu's recent expression of willingness to have the treason charges against him resolved out of court. Joining us on the news to share his thought is Chuka Okena, a political analyst. Hello, Chuka. Thank you so much for joining us at this time, Chuka.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
All right, so how do you view the fact that we have 50 lawmakers across diverse parties, asking for Nnamdi Kanu's release?
That should show us the weight of the matter that is on the table. I mean, we are not just talking about the incarceration of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, but also like incarceration of the first day of work in an entire region, a region that is renowned for its economic prowess. We know the impact of this incarceration on the region and the security implications. So the matter means anything of economic and security implications is weighty enough that even demands much more than that. So I think lawmakers are beginning to give it its deserving place.
Okay, but then how do you expect the government of the day to respond to their demands?
Well, like it's reasonably expected over time, like the government has always had different options at its disposal, just like the last administration, which is legal and political solutions. So I think political is very, very important because of some legal implications and these counter judgment and counter judgments, which doesn't seem to help the issues. So I think political solutions should be considered to look at the facts and the issues, because these agitations are real. A man comes up saying, my people are not fairly treated in this Nigerian project, and is demanding for fairness and equity. I don't think it's that required being treating the person that way, considering the fact that even every region have their right to self-determination. I mean, if we say we're a true federation, then it has to be a true federation.
All right, so but is there a possibility, that the government would look at it as if, if they accede to their demands, they're weaklings or something?
No, not at all. It shouldn't. I mean, diplomacy is an integral part of the power component. Because when you talk about power, you don't just talk about hard power, the kinetics, the use of force. You also talk about diplomacy, soft power, where you're able to even conscientize on the people that are involved to give you their loyalty rather than their violence or rather than their resistance or rather than their right to self-determination. It even makes it even far more outreaching in its power objective when you also look at other dimensions of power rather than the use of force, which obviously have not worked in the Southeast. We've seen different operations, codenamed Operation Python Dance, Operation Crocodile Smiles. With all of those operations, the Southeast is still not smiling or dancing.
Okay, now, if indeed, the President Chuka accedes to their request, would he, that's Nnamdi Kanu, would he have the clout to rein in the element of IPOB, which is causing problems in the Southeast at the moment?
Well, it might be too premature to conclude that those that are responsible for the insecurity in the Southeast are IPOB. IPOB has not owned up that they are the ones in charge. Yes, we've seen cases where maybe especially in specialized operation like the sit-at-home day, which is the ones that is official, right? Like for IPOB on 30th of May of every year, which everybody's advised to sit back, and it's just on the ground that maybe there could be that clash from the security, and at the end of the day, IPOB is called on. But from the body language of the IPOB leader, who has continually declined to associate themselves with some acts of violence or even some unwarranted statements from one Mr. Simon Eba. It is now behooves on the security agencies to do their work. They don't actually need the consent of Nnamdi Kanu. I mean, anyone that stands against the state powers should certainly be brought to book. We don't need the consent of any leader. More so the one that is not constitutionally elected. They should weigh into the matter, fish out those that are responsible for insecurity anywhere, which I can also tell you, and we must not fail to mention that the incidences of also the farmer herders clash, right? Making some communities unsafe, dealing with farmers, eating up their crops and all that. These are all of the things that constitute insecurity, which he did also represent part of the agitations and advocacies of Nnamdi Kanu.
Okay, but is it possible to, separate Simon Ekpa from the atrocities of, that the IPOB has actually committed or is committing?
Well, I would say something which is very important. IPOB is not Simon Ekpa, and Simon Ekpa is not IPOB. I mean, he's been able to find his own platform, right? Which he, the so-called BRICS, that's his own platform. IPOB also have had an existing platform. Yeah, we know that he was once allegedly a disciple of Nnamdi Kanu. But even Nnamdi Kanu have disowned him publicly, saying that no one should listen to him. So I think they are running their different platforms, and whoever is responsible for anything should be held accountable and disciplined decisively. I mean, there should not be room for impunity in a state where you have state powers to ensure the security of lives and properties.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Chuka, for joining us at this time and speaking to us.
You're most welcome.
Away from that, the organized labor in Rivers State, South Nigeria, has suspended its plan to protest against the non-withdrawal of policemen from the 23 local government council secretariats of the state after the expiration of their 4-day ultimatum to the Inspector General of Police. This was made known to newsmen at a joint press conference by the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress Rivers State chapter in Port Harcourt, the state capital. News Central correspondent Austin Azu completes the report.
Following the recent political developments in Rivers State, where local government staffs across the 23 local government areas have been denied access to their offices due to security agencies taking over the secretariat's complexes. The organized labor in the state had earlier issued a 4-day ultimatum to the Inspector General of Police to vacate his men from the council secretariats or bear the consequences. 3 days after, the The union leaders are here to provide updates about the proposed action.
We have it on good authority that some miscreants have been fully mobilized by the enemies of River State to cause mayhem across the 23 local government areas under the cover of organized labor ultimatum, which elapses on Monday, 24th of June, 2024.
While speaking on the reasons for the suspension of the proposed protest, the organized labor in the state said they have uncovered plans by some suspected politicians and hoodlums in the state to hijack the protest. They, however, called on the Nigeria police to be vigilant to arrest and prosecute anyone found to be breaching the unfettered peace in the state.
We hereby inform our members and the general public as follows. 1. That River State organized labor has not directed anyone or group of persons to embark on any form of strike action or demonstration following the lockout of our members at the various local government areas in River State by the Nigerian police. Impacted affiliate unions were advised, especially the Nigerian of Local Government Employees (NOGE), is hereby directed to remain on standby until further notice for likely lawful industrial action by the organized labor.
These miscreants have concluded plans to take undue advantage of a peaceful protest or strike that may have commenced tomorrow to cause mayhem in River State, to enable them continue to pursue their selfish act of asking for a state of emergency to be declared in River State. We reject that, and we want to inform the general public that we hereby step down all our planned peaceful protests slated for tomorrow.
In another development, these ousted council chairmen have accused both the NLC and TUC of being biased and partisan in the ongoing political crisis in the state.
Now, what we observed from the list of caretaker committee members, we observed that across the 23 LGAs, that appointments were made from NOLGE members as part of the caretaker, whereas these NOLGE members are staff of the council. They are not supposed to be. And that is the reason why we observed recently that NOLGE has collaborated with NLC and TUC to carry out a protest tomorrow being the 24th day of June against the police report that the IG has ordered to stay in the councils to maintain law and order so that there will not be any further death as we experience in Omoma local government.
Meanwhile, the organized labor in the state have denied being partisan, but reiterated their commitment to continue fighting for the rights of their members. In Port Harcourt for News Central, Austin Azu.
Thank you, Azu Austin, for that report. Now, we'll be going on a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be speaking to a legal practitioner, William Tamuno, on this same topic. Do stay with us. Meanwhile, the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, Rivers State Chapter, has alerted security agencies, especially the police, the Rivers State government and the public on the consequences of the planned protests by the former local government chairman and former members of the State House of Assembly and National Assembly members in the state. Addressing a press conference in Port Harcourt on Sunday, ALGON chairman Prince Ichemati Ezebunwo warned that the protest was a sinister plot to cause anarchy and chaos with a view to destabilizing governance and creating an excuse to actualize their design for a state of emergency in the state. Ezebunwo stated that since assumption of duty of the caretaker committee chairman, no one has attempted to forcefully take over or gain access to any of the local government secretariats in line with the governor's directive until the police withdraw or remove whatever barriers put in place to protect government assets.
The general public against the planned protests by the immediate past local government chairmen, former assembly members, and National Assembly members loyal to the FCT Minister, Chief Nyesom Wike, against the Nigerian police force manning the 23 local government councils across the state. The planned protest is not in the interest of the local government areas and the state in its entirety. Rather, it is a calculated attempt by these enemies of our dear state to paint the state in bad light.
To speak to us on this, I'm joined by legal practitioner Williams Tamuno. Hello, Williams. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Okay, good afternoon. Now, Williams, can you tell us if there are any probable legal implications of the governor's decision to direct heads of local government administration to take charge of the councils?
When you talk of legal implications, I can tell you for free that it is a basic and standard procedure in governance. That is to say, when a substantive officer is not available, for example, if an ambassador retires, dies, or removed, before the appointment of a substantive ambassador, the most senior in rank will take over the affairs of the department, the ministry, or the agency. This is the standard practice all over the world. Recently, Coach Finidi George was resigned as coach of the national team. The team will not just go about without a leader. The next senior person, maybe a director, will take over. So legally speaking, directive is correct, appropriate, both in law and in normal best practice. That is simple.
Okay, so you're saying that, in your view, that there are no constitutional or human rights violations related to this situation?
There is none. And, you know, constitution, law, almost looked at from a historical context. Take your mind back to 2015. In 2015, election was conducted before Amechi left office, and local government chairmen were sworn in. When the former governor, who is Minister of Abuja, came on board, they went to court. And if I mistake not, Justice Akambi of the Federal High Court gave a judgment that that election that brought those council chairmen did not follow due process and nullified that election. Now, those chairmen, they went on appeal. But while the matter was on appeal, the former governor, Ezebon Wike, set up a local government caretaker committees, of which the current Ikore chairman, if I mistake not, was a beneficiary. And it was after about 9 months or so that they conducted the election. The point I'm making is that in Rivers State, customarily, there have been caretaker committees all through. I was a local government chairman. After my tenure, Tony Okocha was then chief of staff to the former governor Amechi. Tony Okocha was one of those who championed that there should not be election immediately. You can put me on record. And caretaker committees were put in place. My submission is that in the 1999 Constitution, there's no provision for caretaker committee appointments. But the convention has done that at the end of the tenure of local government chairmen, most governors put in place caretaker committees. Former governor Wike practiced that, followed it up, and implemented it to the latter. So, in terms of convention, it is a norm, but it is not in the Constitution.
Okay, well, you just gave an example now. So in this case, you know, if this, the outgoing council, like officials actually feel like their rights are actually being trampled upon, can they also appeal?
Of course. The law is simple. Whenever you feel that your rights is not just trampled, it's likely to be infringed upon, you have to go to court. But you cannot take the laws into your hand. What is happening in Rivers State, you know, as you're interviewing me, that all the issue stops at the table of the Minister of the Federal Republic of FCT Abuja. He said it very categorical that the local government are his core structure and that he will not allow anybody to take that from him. Now, that declaration is very material, but take the matter home. My friends are among those who are affected. Look, everybody swore to an oath of office. Your oath of office say 3 years tenure. There was a purported amendment of the law or repeal that say you stay after 6 months. There is a subsisting judgment of a court of competent jurisdiction which said that that law is struck down. So until that law is revived, the governor's power cannot be encumbered. Mark you, if you look at the 1999 Constitution, section 176, subsection 2, say the governor is the chief executive of the state. If you put that together, what is happening in Rivers State is a shame in the sense that you are fighting for democracy you claim, but you are using undemocratic means. And all this is happening because of the weakness, bias, and how, downtrodden our system is. Otherwise, in Senate clients, this cannot happen. Okay. You came in for 3 years, the tenure has ended, the court judgment, allow the court to go through the process.
Okay.
That's the truth.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Williams, for speaking to us on this topic. We appreciate you for your time.
My pleasure.
Officials of the Lagos State Emergency Management Authority, LASEMA, Lagos State Fire and Rescue Services, and the police have been on ground monitoring the activities around the remains of the burned building. No official statement from the church authorities has been made concerning the possible cause of the inferno or the next line of action. And the building we're talking about is Christ Embassy Church in Ikeja that actually caught on fire yesterday. Now, News Central's correspondent Bernard Akede joins me now to give us an update on this. Hello, Bernard. Thank you so much for joining me at this time. Bernard, can you hear me?
Thank you for having me, Dashan.
All right, yes, I can hear you now. All right, Bernard, now can you give us an update? Describe to us, first of all, the scene and the extent of damage, and what are eyewitnesses saying about how the fire started and, why or how it spread so quickly?
All right, Dashan, well, I've been here since about 9 a.m. or before 9 a.m. Seeing what is left of this building. This particular building used to be a very popular or familiar site on Billingsway here in Oregun, Ikeja, Lagos. But now that is what is left of the building, the charred remains of the popular Christ Embassy building here in Ikeja. There still has not been any official statement as to what exactly caused the fire that we saw here, the raging fire that we saw here from yesterday up until early hours of this morning, because as at the time we came here, we could still see some fire inside the building and smoke spewing out. Eyewitnesses have not said anything. It's almost as if, nobody is saying anything about it. But as you said in your introduction, yes, we've been seeing officials from LASEMA, that's Lagos State Emergency Management Agency. We also did see officials from Lagos State Building Control Agency, Fire Service and Rescue Agency as well in Lagos State, and the police force have been here. Now, the Building Control Agency, as they always do, came here to test the integrity of what is still standing from the fire to ensure how safe the building is. But information that has filtered to us has it that the general overseer, as you could call him, that's Pastor Chris Oyakilome, has stated that regardless of what the result of the integrity test shall be, that he believes that they will pull down this structure, and then hopefully in about maybe another 2 years, they intend to erect another one. But for now, there's still no official statement as to what may have caused the fire. But concerning what may have made it spread, there's suspicions that some of the materials used for decorations here, like lace materials, like some kind of cotton materials, like some plastic and nylon materials, which they use for decoration inside this hall and church building, may have definitely been part of what made the fire spread so quickly.
Bernard, but you said you've actually been there since morning. Have you tried speaking to, any of the church members? Did you try talking to them? Were they quiet about it? Didn't they want to say anything about what actually transpired, in their place of worship?
So, first of all, none of the church members were here, and I've also been made to understand that this building was no longer used for church services anymore. From, I think, about 2020, actual church services have been moved from here to their permanent site somewhere in Ogun State. So this building was only being used for certain major activities, like events, conferences, and then when they have some big gatherings, then they come here for such gatherings. And the building also used to house several offices. If you can see around, you see some small rooms just around the outside part of the wall of the building, which definitely was affected by the fire. Those are offices that also were housed inside of this building. So there were no parishioners or worshippers here, except for church officials, some senior pastors who clearly were not speaking to the press, and then of course officials of Lagos State Building Control Agency and other agencies that have their jobs related to what has happened here. But none of them for now has offered any official statement to the press.
All right, well, while we wait to hear from them, it's a good thing that, there are no reports of injuries or even fatalities. But thank you so much, Bernard, for that update. All right, moving away from that, we'll take a quick break. And when we return, News Central Now continues in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the Lagos State government has issued a 14-day removal notice to owners of buildings and structures in the Songotedo area of Lekki and Okota Isolo areas. Now, these structures were found to be built on drainage channels, posing significant environmental hazards. Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokumbo Wahab, announced this directive following an inspection tour of various contravention sites and ongoing drainage enforcement projects in Ago Palace Way, Isolo, Songotedo, Lekki, and Ikoyi. Wahab emphasized the government's commitment to restoring order and addressing environmental indiscipline in Lagos. He declared that the state would rigorously enforce relevant laws regardless of opposition. Let's also tell you that the refusal to comply with basic hygiene management procedures and the lack of adherence to sanitary measures has continued to worsen the outbreak of cholera in the country. Now, while several states of Nigeria are currently battling with a breakout, there are fears that this might continue to spread if measures are not put in place to improve current sanitary conditions in many communities. Marvelous Opomanu reports.
Cholera is a food and waterborne disease caused by the ingestion of the bacterium Vibrio cholerae in contaminated water and food. We first spoke to some medical practitioners to understand what cholera is and how it spreads.
So it's a disease that is caused by a bacteria that mainly or largely affects the digestive system. And what it does is it gets into the system and then it causes a lot of abnormality in the digestive system.
How long can someone be stooling if you're down with Vibrio cholera? You can be down till at the peak of when you are about recovering. That is when the stool will stop. And so you keep stooling frequently.
From the interaction with the experts, preventing the infection or its spread is strongly dependent on personal hygiene and environmental sanitation. This means that the open dumping of refuse, drinking water from unknown sources, eating street foods, and overcrowded areas fuel the spread of cholera. A visit to some areas in the nation's capital, Abuja, revealed that all these preventive measures are not being taken seriously, making people prone to the infection. Food vendors were seen selling food in an unhealthy environment, while customers ate food in open spaces. At the Federal Secretariat, an area that houses most government ministries and agencies, workers were cited buying and eating food in open spaces, a situation many public health experts have condemned.
Before you go to a particular point or a particular place to go and eat, you should have known how well the person cook and how the person is good in hygienic control. So before you go to that place, you should have understand how this person tends to prepare his or her food.
Food vendors, those are also medium by which people get that. Now, some of these food vendors, you are not sure of the quality and the purity of the water they use. And even the person preparing it, you don't know how their hygiene state is.
News Central crew also visited the Mpape community, and the situation is not different from the Federal Secretariat. We observed a massive heap of refuse dump, and we caught on camera people defecating openly. While cholera can lead to mortalities, experts say children are in danger of being affected.
Children need fluid than you. So you discover that the worst thing that the cholera does is when you are passing out the stool, you are losing more of your ions and the fluid in the system, so you become dehydrated.
The situation on ground is not far from what is obtainable in other parts of the country where there have been reported cases and deaths. Available data says that in the last 4 years, about 4,364 people have died from cholera in the country, while another 139,730 Nigerians have been suspected to have been infected. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Oboman.
A big issue in critical environmental thinking today is about the transition to a post-carbon world and the system of production globally. Now, to tackle this issue, stakeholders in the climate change ecosystem have been rubbing minds with journalists on global justice and emancipation of the global south from green colonialism. Take a look.
Enthusiasts and activists under the guidance of Health of Mother Earth Foundation, HOMEF, have been interacting with media practitioners and environment stakeholders. The dialogue seeks to extract global justice and climate change. Colonial relations underpin claims around transition, net zero and the green economy. Environmentalists like Nemo Bassi, Ibrahim Athiyam, Breno Bringel and co-editor Miriam Lang, as panelists, critically explore the core themes and topics of a hugely timely and relevant publication, The Geopolitics of Green Colonialism.
We have to address these global injustices by generating South-South alliances and decolonizing not only our institutions and the global economy, the global trade, the global rules and the climate action, but also our own imaginaries.
They agreed that the time for denial is over. Across the global north, the question of how we should respond to the climate crisis has been answered with a shift to renewables.
Personally, I believe that we live in systems that we try to accommodate too much and we don't question at all. But those systems were originally not made to work for us. And that is why we are all dissatisfied with this system. And the central message is that we should start looking at trying to imagine new ways of living. Imagine new ways of living where we have more power and more control. more control of where and how we live, more control over how we eat, more control over how we travel, and more control over how we manage our affairs.
But beneath the sustainability branding, these climate solutions are leading to new environmental injustice and green colonialism. The green growth and clean energy plans of the global north require the large-scale extraction of strategic minerals from the global south.
The just transition is not only a thing that is in the projects, in the hegemonic projects. We really have transition projects that are going on in the communities, in the different territories in Latin America and Africa, around energy, around alternative ways to think food, culture, and so on. So this is my main message today.
The geopolitics of transition implies sacrificing not only territories, but truly sustainable ways of inhabiting this world.
The central message today is that time is running out, and we have to have clear understandings of the fact that green colonialism will not solve the problem, the energy problem or the crisis in the world today. The world must be liberated. The peoples of the world must come together, organize across regions, and fight for justice and fight for liberty for our people and for the planet.
The publication provides a platform for the voices that have been absent in debates around energy and climate in the global north. Drawing on case studies from across the global south, the authors offer incisive critiques of green colonialism in its material, political, and symbolic dimensions.
In the east of the continent, in a powerful display of unity, hundreds of young Kenyans gathered in Nairobi to march, urging the church to denounce the controversial finance bill proposed by President Ruto. After months of voicing their frustrations on social media, these young activists took to the streets to protest the punitive tax measures outlined in the bill. They argue that the proposed taxes will exacerbate the financial burdens on young Kenyans who are already grappling with rising living costs and limited access to well-paying jobs. The demonstrators are calling on the church to join their fight against the bill and advocate for a fairer economic future.
I'm hoping and praying that this will be a spark, especially towards the church, because what we are seeing is, as in Hakuna wase wanaongea, these guys who are called the clergy, they are too scared to do anything or to speak against it for their own reasons.
We as the young people, me as a millennial, and as a Gen Z representing the Gen Z, kindly here to apply and reject that finance bill. It is not to the edification of young people. You are oppressing us, and you had promised us to do good by us. That is not really doing good by us. So kindly, just reject that finance bill. We don't want it to be amended, but we want it to be rejected.
Because they think the church is silent, they think the church doesn't care about them, but I'm just here to tell them the church cares about you. Whatever
One person has died and dozens were injured during a stampede at Rwanda's President Paul Kagame's campaign rally ahead of a vote widely expected to extend the incumbent's rule. Kagame has been Rwanda's de facto ruler since the end of the 1994 genocide, which claimed some 800,000 lives, mostly Tutsis, but also moderate Hutus. Now, Kagame will face the same rivals as he did in 2017. The leader of the opposition Democratic Green Party, Frank Habineza, and former journalist Felipe Mpaimana, who is running as an independent. Campaigning kicked off on Saturday with Kagame addressing rallies in Musanze and Rubavu in northern Rwanda on the weekend. News Central will return after the break. Other news from around the world, the U.S. military showcased the AC-130J Ghost Rider at Osan Air Base in South Korea. Commander of the U.S. Special Operations Command Korea, Derek Lipson, says the aircraft is used for close air support, armed interdiction, and armed reconnaissance, making it one of the most requested assets during combat operations. Lipson added that he hopes the training which is being conducted will not need to be executed.
Soft operations capabilities, we have to conduct the training routinely. So it's a matter of whenever we have the opportunity to bring a crew like this and this system to the peninsula, we'll take advantage of it.
The most common missions that the AC-130 will fulfill and that we regularly train to accomplish include close air support, armed interdiction, and armed reconnaissance, which make the AC-130 one of the most requested assets during combat operations.
In the world of sports, Eyimba Football Club and Super Eagles goalkeeper Olorunleke Ojo stole the show in Aba as bid farewell to the club at the end of the season. The 28-year-old shot stopper, who had been an integral part of the People's Elephant for the past 3 years, played his final game for the former Nigerian champions in a 2-0 victory against Plateau United on Sunday. The 28-year-old, who captained Eyimba and played a key role in their NPFL title win last season, was integral to the team over his 3-year tenure. Ojo's stellar performance in his final game was met with cheers and cheers from fans and teammates alike. The goalkeeper marked his departure by distributing customized Eyimba jerseys and cash to fans. His departure is a massive blow to the club, who will now have to find a suitable replacement to fill the void left by the shot stopper. Darwin Núñez scored as Uruguay began their Copa America campaign with a 3-1 win over Panama in Miami, Florida. The Liverpool striker, 25, volleyed home at the near post with 5 minutes of normal time remaining to double Uruguay's lead after defender Ronald Araujo had opened the scoring after 16 minutes. Left-back Matias Vina added a third in added time for the 15-time champions before defender Michael Amir Murillo scored a consolation for Panama. Uruguay have been in fine form and have been tipped to impress at the Copa America after beating Argentina and Brazil in World Cup qualifiers over the past 12 months. Still talking sports, South Korea's Amy Yang won her first major title at the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. The 34-year-old led by 2 shots into the final round at Sahali Country Club in Seattle and was 7 clear after 15 holes. Despite a bogey on the 16th and a double bogey on the 17th, she finished with a level par 72, ending 7 under and 3 strokes ahead of compatriot Jin Young Ko, American Lilia Vu, and Japan's Miyu Yamashita. Competing in her 75th major, Yang's victory marks the longest wait for a maiden win since Angela Stanford's 2018 Avian Championship triumph. England's Charlie Hall tied for 16th, and Ireland's Leona Maguire finished 24th after a challenging weekend rounds. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We told you that organized labor says an agreement must be reached before President Tinubu transmits minimum wage bill to legislature. We also told you that 50 members of Nigeria's House of Representatives call for the release of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. Finally, you heard that 1 person killed and dozens injured in a stampede during President Kagame's campaign rally. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.